bishop there, and the word got around somehow that Archbishop Lombardi was going to be here, so we have a couple things in common. Number one, we're priests. Number two, we're guys. Number three, we're Italians. So I know we have two Italians, Joe and Joe here from Hagerstown, right? And they're Italians. Welcome. I think that you're here for a good reason, and everybody that we're here for the right reason, for first God, second the sacrifice of the Mass, third for truth, and fourth for religious freedom. So I wanted to get that out front in the beginning, so welcome. Hope nobody walks out now. Ushers, secure the doors. I'd like to talk about the readings first and then all these homilies. We got some bad news today. The Supreme Court ruling. And the reason why we're opposed to that, the United States Catholic bishops, and this has got to be known, it's not political, it's because there are going to be some forms of abortion in that healthcare, right? So that's why they officially opposed the healthcare that was more passed and was allowed today. So that's the bad news. The good news is Italy won 2-1 in the soccer game. So I thought those Italian guys would like that, especially. That's the good news. So during the soccer game, I was writing my sermon. I hope it makes sense. In St. Irenaeus, we have a guy of great faith. And in John chapter 17, it was known, this reading was offered by Dan. He said, would you like to do the readings of the day? I did the other readings this morning, and I'm glad he asked me. And in John 17, Irenaeus was a great man. He died in, about 220 AD? And he fought Gnosticism. That teaches that the material isn't important. The sensate things aren't important. What's more important, or the most important, or really the only real thing, is spirit. You say, well, that kind of makes sense. But then you deny marriage, the sacraments, the materiality of life, human sexuality, and all those good things. You threw out the baby with the bathwater. So we see that in New Age spiritualities today. Follow? So Irenaeus fought all that 1800 years ago, and he was martyred for the faith. Thus the priest wears red. So he was a man of great truth. And some of the Gnostics thought, well, Jesus is not really a real man. He didn't really come to this world. It was just like a ghost or a figure or a figment. Or he wasn't really God. What does Jesus say twice in John 17 today? I want them to know that you, Father, sent me. Follow? So John's Gospel, one of the main reasons that it exists is to address heresy, wrong thoughts. And so was Irenaeus. Irenaeus came along and saw that Gnosticism, he's not really God. There's secret teachings. It's not really public. You don't have to believe in matter because only spirit exists. This is really obvious in Eastern religions, right? So we have to applaud, and the best, what is it? The best flattery is imitation. Took me a while to think of that, right? So we got to imitate the saints, not just adulate the saints. That means you have to stand up for your faith. That means you have to, in order to show your faith to somebody, you have to know your faith. The best flattery is imitation, not adulation. We can all worship Jesus and come in here in this air-conditioned church. But who's going to imitate him? And that's what Catholicism is about, right? Making saints, being one with the Son. That I, Father, am one with them, and that they be one in us. So, no matter what happened today, as bad as it was and upsetting, I was stunned. I wrote this down. I was stunned by the decision and stuttering, but you remember that great theologian, Vince Lombardi? He said, everybody's going to get knocked down, but the hero's going to get back up. Everybody's going to get knocked down. We're going to get knocked down again in the future things are going to be hard and harsh, not just here, but elsewhere. The question is, are you going to get back up? Right? And that's what he taught his men, and he motivated them as guide to God. And Irenaeus, as a guy, motivated his guys, the priests. He was a bishop. And so he taught them courage. And the Gnostics weren't always nice people, right? They persecuted Christians. So there's John 17. The highest teaching of the gospel is not morality, the government, healthcare, social justice. All those things are important and integral. What's the highest teaching of our church? Worship God and become one with God. I want to give them the glory that you, Father, gave me. So when we get upset, we think of that and meditate on that. Who's going to tell you that? The same glory that the Father shares within the inner Trinity from all eternity, that glory that the Father gives to the Son, Jesus is saying, I want to pass that on to them. That's John 17. That's your faith. That's your religion. We should want to die for it. That guy did, Irenaeus. So that should console us as we still carry on the faith. The glory, the uncreated glory God gave his Son, Jesus wants to give us. Can you name something better? I can. I think this baby is trying to name something better right now. In the first reading from 2 Timothy, why was this reading chosen? Remember, St. Irenaeus, bishop, saint, he followed Jesus. The early centuries, they didn't have catechisms, PR, marketing, catechetical divisions, all these things. He got the Old Testament and the New Testament together, and he's one of the first men / teachers and women, etc., of the whole church to synthesize the Old and the New Testament together. To make it one. We assumed they're one. We had that passed on to us by our grandmoms and teachers, right? He saw those as one. He saw Jesus as the fulfillment of the Old Testament, Irenaeus. And he showed to the Gnostics, these people who were just thinking there's just spirit, or just magic and inner teachings. No. Jesus was real. He came in the flesh. We can eat his body and drink his blood. He told us to do so. And he also gives us moral, ethical teachings, which the Gnostics, those early spiritualists, were making up themselves. And we can see that today. You getting all the connections? So we need people like Irenaeus today in the church. And it says in 2 Timothy, you should lead to the full knowledge of the truth. So let's be led to the knowledge of the truth that this baby is a beautiful human being. It's not a fetus only or a piece of tissue, and it's a person. So the Catholic Church stands up for that, and when we opposed, the bishops did officially, this isn't Father Lombardi or Archbishop Lori, the whole Catholic bishops in the United States stood up and said, we oppose this. And they were saying with truth, you can't, even if there's one baby killed by that, or sanctioned killing by that, would we oppose that? Yes? Romans 3 says you never do a bad thing to bring about a good thing. One baby, yes, even though it would help or give health care to 5 trillion people. You never do a bad thing by doing another bad thing. You never commit evil to bring about a good. That's what we got to remember. How was slavery justified? It built the XYZ country or culture or whatever. Oh, that was bringing about, was it? Good. But people were enslaved. They thought they were doing good by evil. So that's why the Catholic bishops opposed the health care. It wasn't just because of the mandate. That wasn't even part of it, right? So that brings up another point. We need the saints. Irenaeus, Archbishop Lori, last Thursday, talked about John Fisher and Thomas More. And what did he say? And I'll pick out some thoughts. St. Thomas More was a family man. So you family men got to step up to the plate, too. He had a family. He had, I guess, education and tuitions to pay. He had a wife, right? He was widowed and then married his second God-given wife. And he had a body. He was offered bribes. What did he say? No. Yes to God, no to that junk. He had a position of power. And he said, what's more important? The Lord. So all these things are going to come at us, right? Boys, girls. And, oh, money, or don't care, or let's get on with something else, or the church isn't only about this. We're going to get, either attacked or assuaged or offered all those various things, right? And you are. Maybe you're a widow, maybe you're elderly. Don't stand up, whatever that means. Or you're younger. We're all going to get offered these things. What are you going to say? Here's Thomas More, he had it all. He was the most important man next to the king in England, and he said no till his death. So we need people and men, boys, girls, and ladies like him. And his family to support him. He talked to his daughter, and we're only seeing a little part of the scene. He might have gotten scared. He was human. And the saints, and some of the prayers of the church, I think twice because it kind of acts like they always were like non-human. They never suffered or had trouble. So that's where we all come in. We have to support one another when the person suffers and has troubles, right? So that's St. Thomas More. St. John Fisher, the other saint who we celebrated last Wednesday, right? And Thursday or Friday. St. John Fisher was a celibate priest. And is he bishop of Rochester? England?
Yes.
Yes? Thank you. Merci. And he stood alone, and if you ever think, like you're in your classroom, or you're in your neighborhood, and it's like, don't put that gum under that desk, or, don't steal that candy, and all the other boys or parents or girls or whoever is like, no, go ahead. But you're the lone one. You ever feel like that? Yes? And you're against the crowd, and 50 people are saying this, and you're one over here, or gossip, right? We've all been there. The table, people are, and you're, we all feel alone. He stood alone. Let's say there were how many bishops in England? 50, maybe, or so, during King Henry? Something like that. He was the only bishop that stood up and said, I'm not going to sign the document that makes you the head of the church, or give you a fake divorce. 1 out of 50. So we're all going to get scared. We're all going to be challenged, whether it's with the government or soccer or the World Cup. If you don't vote for Italy versus Spain on Sunday, I'm going to pressure you. I'm just kidding. We're all going to have pressures. John Fisher, he was the only one. They gave him bribes. He also influenced education, John Fisher. Boy, is that a gigantic job. Could speak all night about that. I won't bore you. Glad the air conditioning is going so you don't yawn. John Fisher, I think they were trying to do something at university. It was within his purview. He said no. So there's a lot of courage. And he had smarts, shrewdness, as well as devotion and piety. So John Fisher, he was later beheaded in the 1530s, I think. Thomas More earlier. These two great men of conscience, we need their help in today's world. So, maybe some people may not think this is serious. Some people may think, well, Father, you're going off too much, or these 14 days, can't you make it 10, or why are you doing all that, or what are you getting excited about, or why don't you talk about soccer more, less about healthcare and social justice and stuff, or why don't you talk about X, Y, Z, why are you talking about 1, 2, 3? Have you gotten that? Why are you fixated on this? Or, look, we got lights on TVs, air conditioning, carpet, soccer. Italy's in the final soccer cup game. We got our refrigerators filled. We have a vacation this summer. We're doing fine. Look, there's not war. We're pulling out of wars. Everything's okay. Right? Why are you upset? Don't go off on that. If you don't think it's serious, and I thought of this earlier, and you could add to it, this is just a few minutes thought. What I would say to you, I'm sure I'm speaking to the choir, but we should answer that question, right? So, why is it serious? A, already Catholic institutions, not just Catholic ones, Christian ones, and maybe some atheist ones, I'm not sure, but Catholic hospitals, foster care, and other social outreaches and soup kitchens have already been closed. And they were serving hundreds of thousands of people. They're cut already because of the federal government. That's not serious. That is serious. People are going sick and without care already. Right? That's serious. Number two, we get air conditioning, we get assuaged, we get comfortable in the world. Your job is to convince people this is serious. Don't wait till next year or 10 years from now, because things are happening already. Why? Show me, Father. We're married. You're at a party. You're at a pool. What are you going to say? How are you going to prove the case? Number two, the federal government and Archbishop/Cardinal Dolan already pointed this out in the church standing up for certain things in marriage. The government and some of their lawyers, whoever they are, pray for them, they already accused the church of discrimination because some of the government is not enforcing in the Attorney General the DOMA, the Defense of Marriage Act, and has accused the church of discrimination against same-sex couples and the whole movement. That's serious. It's already been done. So you don't think it's going to happen a year from now or 5 years from now? The horse is out of the barn, in other words. It's already been tried. So when the Cardinal Dolan of New York sent his letter to protest, or whatever the word is, nicely, politely, assertively, to President Obama, he noted that, or excuse me, I think the USCC, the Catholic Bishops' Conference, attached to his letter that example. So bishops know about this, the bishop staffs, all those people, the janitor probably, you should know about it too. What's the point? The government is trying to accuse us of discrimination, label us, mislabel us as discriminatory prejudice and so on. That's serious. They're throwing the equivalent of race cards at us. Got it? So that's serious. Third thing, and this is my final one for this point, is August, the healthcare starts, and the mandate, not necessarily the mandate, but contraception will have to be offered in hospitals, private institutions, and colleges. When? A year from now? 2020? August. 1.5 months. That's serious. So those are some little small, little helps. We have to evangelize people, and that's what I'm trying to do with you before you fall asleep. Now, is the air conditioning working? So we have to be serious and know our facts, and people are going to say, come on, pass the salt. Let's have some steamed crabs and go swimming. Right? So why is it serious? It affects the poor. It affects those organizations that have helped the poor. It affects all Catholics. We're all going to be tarnished, tarred, and fettered like we're discriminatory and prejudicial. And also, it's going to start soon. People are going to be forced against their conscience. Last one, is it serious? You have a Jewish group, Hasidics or Reformed or whoever, they don't eat pork, or Muslims, Would you go to a Detroit mosque or to Brooklyn and say to the Jews there and the Muslims, you have to serve pork? No, people wouldn't. Next, the title of this clumsy homily, on page 2 out of 10, so hang in there, is Conscience, Courage in the Catholic Church, something like that. So I'm getting to the topic now. What is conscience? And this is something we all need to know, right? What is conscience? Irenaeus had a conscience, and he knew this square peg doesn't go into this round hole. He knew Jesus is a nice guy, yeah. He knew Jesus was divine, but the Gnostics said, he's not really real and he's not God. He's like a demiurge. No, Jesus said in John 17, I want them to know that I came from you, God, the Father. Trinity, we came up with that word later, right? But the Gnostics didn't believe totally he was God or God-like or from God. And so he said that twice there in the Gospel. Irenaeus was a great guy. He knew it. His conscience, inner light, shows A goes with B. Square peg, square hole. What is conscience? It's the light within showing us truth. Keep it simple. There's the bumper sticker. It's the little, what do you call that down in Carolina? Lighthouse. That goes around and it signals truth. It alerts us to truth. And if the light doesn't shine on it, it's not truth. So, okay, abuse that baby, or smoke in front of these kids, or you can torture these people. The inner light should show you that's not true, right? Your conscience is formed right. You're going to protect that girl, that boy, that person, right? So that's conscience, the inner light that shows us truth. Conscience, church. That's our Holy Mother that has 1,001 teachings to make us godlike and show us God's plan. And we have rules and stuff. That's not the goal. The goal is heaven, God-likeness, and bringing everybody with us. And on earth, like John Fisher, showing others the truth who don't know the truth. Right? So what's the church? It's our Holy Mother enabling us, teaching us what is true and what is to be avoided and what is evil. So we need our church today. If there's nobody else, if there's no place where the buck stops, who's making it up? The Gnostics were making it up, basically. They were getting together Greek, Roman, Eastern myths and cobbling those together, and it's happening even more today with New Age and the internet and so forth. Follow? Where does the buck stop? Who's the decider? Our church is our mother to help form our conscience to say, no, this is really bad to hurt people and gossip. This is really good, do this. It's getting your flashlight batteries working. Right? Conscience, the light within that shows us the truth. What's the church? It's our mother showing us what truths are. And what is courage? And here's a kind of silly way, but it works. 007. Remember that? Will you? What is that? Overcoming obstacles 7 days a week. That's courage. Courage. Oui? Bon courage. Good courage. What is courage? Overcoming obstacles. Here's another definition. A strong ability to choose a right way, action, or thought in conformity with God's plan, while overcoming obstacles. That's courage. So you could choose either one, preferably both. What's courage? Overcoming obstacles 7 days a week. What's courage? It's strongly being able to choose the right way when people are saying, go the wrong way. Gossip, lie, look at pornography, steal, cheat. But you're courageous. You don't care about other people's esteem, human affection, or respect. You do it because it's right. Right? So is that helpful? I think of courage, two examples. Remember a few years ago, somebody fell in the subway up in New York? And a guy was there, right? What did he do? And especially with men, especially guys, what did he do? He hit the tracks. He jumped on the person, the train came, and he saved the lady. It's stimulus response. That's courage, overcoming obstacles. Especially when a train's coming. Can you remember that? The train, the worst kind are, doubts, ideologies, movements, people, things, false truths, partial truths, or peer pressure. Follow? That's a train. So the guy jumped right away. That should be a noble guy's instinct, right? That's even in this. The Wizard of Oz, of all the beasts, the lion lost his nature, right? It's even written DNA in the animal kingdom. The lion's courageous. He was, windy. So a courageous guy, man, is going to get his neck, even though he's offered, some good English pork, sausage, and beer, Thomas More. And even though, they're knifing him, and we got your wife over here, let's send his daughter in and try to bribe him that way. He was courageous. The train was coming constantly. Overcoming obstacles 7 days a week. And maybe this homily too, right? So we need courage today, because a lot of people, we all get scared. The other example is I was with my friend Brian today, and we were talking about courage. He used to live in New York. He's a New Yorker. You ever hear they have a foreign accent there? What's courage? He said, yeah, sometimes we think too much. And he said years ago, in my previous life, he was a junkie par excellence up there, and I'm not gossiping, he's giving talks here. Anyway, somebody stole a lady's pocketbook. He was nearby. What did he do? Go online and see what to do? His instinct, as he said, without ego, was to go and run after the guy. As soon as he started running, guess what happened? And this is going to happen to everybody. What happened? He started, well, I'm going to catch that guy. What am I going to do? And what if what if? And he almost stopped. He kept running, jumped on the guy, they started duking it out. I'm not advertising here. And then the rest of the crowd came and got him. That's all going to happen to us, probably. But his instinct was right, especially as a man. So there's a bunch of boys here and gentlemen, and that was part of our discussion during the Italy game today. They won. Just wanted to tell you again. Was that guys, even to age 50, he said, I don't know, I guess he heard a talk or something, and check my time. It's still moving. I can't stop this clock here. He said, even though age 50, guys, boys, men, are looking for role models. So you're looking for somebody that's going to be strong and compassionate like Jesus at the same time. Courageous, and the 2 C's, I think, compassionate, soft love, and challenging, tough love. And a man looks for that even until age 50, he just turned 50. Brian. So, but his instinct is to just knee-jerk go defend, the motherland, that person, our mother church. So, we need our priests, and we need you to help spread the good news and encourage others. We need women to be courageous, mothers, single people, divorced people, to be courageous, because everybody's going to get intimidated, just like John Fisher was. But what's courage? It overcomes that. You may have a boulder, but you're either going to go around it, it's going to become smaller, or you're going to work with it, or you may even be, that's the story of Christianity. You might be crushed by it, but your soul, the glory Trinity shares is within you. Right? That's going to help your courage. Joan of Arc was burned. Was she successful? She was burned at the stake. So we can't always measure go on success. So we need courage. And that's where people say, well, what are we to do? And Brian and I talked about that, and I'll give you a bunch of reasons, and then I'll sit down, or we'll keep praying. Before that, how do we get to where we are today? Number one, lukewarmness. We both said, post-World War II, there's a lot of prosperity in America. We arrived, we got a Catholic president, etc., right? And things were good, and they still are. Apathy started happening. So that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is it's kind of digressive. The other side is aggressive. Government, groups, secularism, pornography, others, anti-God people came into forces of public policy and started attacking our Lord and our religion. Those two things came together, and we are where we are now, today. Right? So that's a quick sketch. There's tons of other reasons, but I would boil it down to those couple things. The next thing is, the worst thing is apathy. Pass this all. This will pass, etc. So, what can you do? What can we do? Number one, men need to be leaders. I think our bishops, our pope, and our priest. They have to have that courage. A lot of people don't care, or some don't get invested. And B, some aren't believers in all these various issues. And so we have to encourage them, your parish priest, or the bishop. It's not optional anymore. Write a letter of encouragement or say, yeah, thank you, or could you speak on? And you have to help that lion, in the Wizard of Oz and get his, whatever it was, all that happened there. Gumption back. That's what John Fisher was. And so forth. So Jesus was a leader. Who did he pick? 12 men. We have our Blessed Lady. We have ladies involved in our churches. And he got those guys, his voice, physical voice, and his stature and his teachings appealed to guys and men. And that's what our bishops have to do to us priests and boys and you ladies also. And get them enthused and courageous. Next, do you cherish the church? If you don't cherish our teachings and our values, well, what's there to die for? Right? We need to value our church, our traditions, our teachings, and so forth. So we need to remember that and love our church. And if you're not in love with the passion, then we're not going to be excited and be courageous. Next, Archbishop Chaput of Philadelphia said this: my point is this, we live in a world of illusions when we lose sight of Jesus, who he really is. Father John Hugo, friend of Dorothy Day, she had an abortion, married, unmarried, bohemian, communist, convert, Catholic worker. Cardinal O'Connor said, well, she's saintly, she came through a lot. Used to say, Father John Hugo, we sometimes believe in a falsified picture of Jesus, eyes perpetually raised to heaven, soft, even girlish in beauty, the very incarnation of impotence. Jesus didn't hesitate to condemn the rich, warn the powerful, denounce in vehement language the very leaders of the people. ... So, we have to believe in the right kind of Jesus. And that's for what? To make people upset? No, to bring about the common good. Next, what do we do? Spark. Girls, you have to spark your parents if they're yawning. They don't care about this. Guys, ladies, parents to your children. This is the spark. We all have to spark each other, to be interested, and to help, and to be enthusiastic. And on hot days like this, give each other, a pat on the back and a cup of water, literally. Spark. We have to spark others. What is courage? Here's another one Brian said. He said, you got to take a risk. Is that too simple? No. Next, we got to get out of our comfort zone. Catholics are comfortable in the United States. Overly comfortable? You? Question mark. Let's get uncomfortable. Out of our comfort zone. Fish out of water. Next, sometimes simpler people do greater things. Brian was saying, my friend. That's true, isn't it? It's like sometimes we get too stuck up here. And it's like the poor people or the sinners, like when the bureaucrat comes in, or the bureaucracies, apparatchiks, and all the upper level of strata of governments and other things. It's like 4th of July, and it's that like poor little guy that just immediately puts his hand over his heart instinctively, and everybody's kind of shy and not wanting to do that and be too pious. So we can get too stuck up here, including me. We get to be simple and devoted. And it's everybody together, working together. So let's love our church, love our Lord, love our country, and like St.